Hey everybody, I am digging that music. What do you think, Melissa?
I love it too.
Oh,
It gets your blood pumping, gets you kind of energetic. You want to do something.
Relationships.
Yeah,
I love it. I like that song. I'm Leary Little.
And I'm Melissa Jackson. And we are talking about consistently little shifts that make a big difference.
Yes, we are. And we got some good stuff to talk about today. And we just appreciate you guys joining us and being part of our RelationShifts podcast. And we hope you like the new song. Hey, let us know if you don't mind. Drop some comments to us, and or check it out. And if you like it, let us know, and we can actually let you know how you can get a copy of it. Maybe.
That's right. We'd love for you to have that. So we always kick off with a question. So we love that people are taking time to give us feedback and ask questions that we can spend some energy on. And so we've got one for today. I think it's really good. I think it's so applicable. Here it is. This person says, I'm always the fixer. That fixer is making it happen all the time. I feel safe, he says, being the fixer because I know it'll get done and done right. Mm-hmm. We might just need to pause right there. I feel you.
You want to wave the hanky?
But it keeps going. It's also heavy and it's draining. How can I shift toward simply being present instead of solving everything?
Boy, I love it. What a great question. And this is what I want to say to this. First of all, you're never going to get to the place where you don't feel like fixing it. Not going to happen. So
that's a great point.
We'll help her by saying, look, don't expect to get to the place where you don't want to fix things. So first, lower those expectations for yourself. It's not going to happen. But guess what you can do? What you can do is choose to behave differently, even though it feels bad. I think the problem is it feels so uncomfortable not to fix things, right? That we think we're supposed to. So we respond in a way that we think we're supposed to, especially our camel friends, because they want things to be right. But if you will first and foremost lower your expectation.
Well, I think also that, fixers find themselves in the environment that needs fixing. It's just like a magnet or something, this is how you do things, who you are, and somehow you're attracted or you're drawn or you find yourself in these environments. And so it does make it hard. It makes it really hard to step back and do the things that you're talking about. It sounds really easy. Just choose. It
is. Let me tell you something. People sometimes talk about us like, they just talk about a lot of soft skills. Look, there's nothing soft about this. It's hard. This is tough. And yes, choosing to step back from fixing, I do need you to know it's a choice. I do need you to know it's incredibly difficult. But my challenge to you here is give yourself permission to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would say some time too. This is definitely something that you have to transition away from and know that at any moment, the right situation, the right scenario, the right dynamic, if you're tired and exhausted, you're going to find yourself back in this mode if you're not careful. So it is quite the step to be able to move away from that and recognize what you're doing.
It certainly is step by step, but it's also playing the long game in that step. See, I think you can take the step by step if you can see the long game, if you can see the longer picture, the bigger picture.
Maybe you want something different.
At the end of the day, if you want to learn to be present, and being present has so many rewards because you can engage, you can evaluate, you can not get in the role to make someone else defensive.
Feel in control of yourself.
Oh man. So look at the play the long game, be uncomfortable in the short game, step by step. Just try a little, try a little shift.
Make some little shifts.
And you're going to feel terrible. You're going to feel terrible. It's going to hurt. You're going to look at things that need to be fixed that are just being let go, and you're going to have to learn to prioritize that. Yeah, for the long haul, because you're really looking. Let's play the long game. You're looking to what? You're looking to develop the relationship. So put that relationship over the fixer attitude, and when you do that, you're building credibility and you're building connection in that relationship.
Great points. So you're going to feel uncomfortable to begin with. You're going to feel this is unfamiliar, and maybe you work yourself towards a different type of feeling. You're learning to feel differently instead of running in and fixing. Ooh, that could be a whole episode.
It could be a whole episode.
Wonderful questions. Such great insight
question
from this person. Thank you. Thank you for this. So we're talking about relationships and how to reconnect, how to restore the relationship. What does that look like? How do you just practically do that? What are some things to be aware of so that you can restore relationships? You know, I think most of us can be mindful, and if we think back over our years, we have some broken relationships. You know, all of us, there are relationships, friendships that maybe, you know, didn't evolve to the place that we wanted them to. Maybe some broken relationships in our families, maybe at work, a lot of different scenarios.
Yeah, you know, Melissa, there was a time when I was in high school, you know, I soaking wet weighed maybe 120, maybe 130 soaking wet. And I was a junior or whatever, but played on our basketball team, and our center, we called him Horse. He weighed probably 200 pounds or more. Big guy. And we were practicing out one day where we were playing ball, and in my arrogance, I thought that, you know, I would go, you know, show Horse a lesson or two. And so I went up to Horse, and you know, it took about 1 minute, and he knocked me on my rear end, and then he realized what he had done. He realized we were buddies, we were good friends, but we just are emotional. You know, we were kids, and so he popped me. I ended up, before I could blink, on my rear end on the gym floor, and he looked at me, and he came over to me, and he picked me up, big old Horse, 200 pounds. He picked me up and hugged me. My nose is bleeding where he hit me in the nose. You know, probably broke my nose. I don't know. But he picked me up. He goes, "I don't want to hurt you, little buddy." I've never been so thankful for a restored relationship in all of my life. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so thank you," because you could kill me, Horse. And so we made up, but I was never, you know, I needed to restore that relationship, and I'm so glad he took the initiative.
He took the initiative, and aren't you glad he did? And what a lead into a stat I have. So this is by Gottman Institute. We use Gottman a lot. Such a powerful researcher. So 69% of relationships can be resolved with intentional effort and communication. 69% of relationship issues can be resolved or restored. That's a powerful number.
Yeah, it's a powerful number. We've been working with relationships for years. We've given our life to studying relationships. And I think that is a great stat to remember, that almost 70% of relationships can be restored. It's a myth that once a relationship is broken, well, there's just nothing I can do. It's just not true. But let's talk a little bit about that so we can understand what do we mean when we say broken relationships, and let's kind of get down into some practical situations, if you will, where your relationship may be disconnected. You may be in a relationship where right now it's not working for you. It's not connected the way you'd want it to be.
And these are relationships where you want to reconnect. You know, there's a reason to do that. There's a desire to do that. You may not feel like you have the skill or the ability to do it, or sometimes the want to, but you know they need to be restored. You know something needs to take place. You know, it's kind of like the Wi-Fi signal. You know, you can lose that connection. You can lose your Wi-Fi signal. And what happens? How do you regain that connection? Well, you move closer, right, to the modem, or you move closer to.
Are you talking technology here, Melissa? Are you like jumping out there on some technology, some modem and some routers and some Wi-Fi? Is that what I'm hearing?
What are you saying? I hear some infernus going on.
I might be disconnecting a relationship right now. I didn't even mean to.
I think he's saying I'm not technical, but we'll move on. So
no, I wouldn't dare say that. But you're so right about the Wi-Fi thing. That, you know what, when that coverage goes down, what happens is all of a sudden, you know, even if you think about a cell phone, when you're out and you lose cell phone coverage, the communication goes down. You may
drops.
You're talking, but they may
drops.
not be hearing what you're saying. You're just talking away. You ever done that? Just talk away, and all of a sudden you realize the other person heard nothing, or they heard bits and pieces, and that causes, you know, hey, whoa, that causes huge miscommunication. And that's what our relationship disconnect looks like, right? Is that what you're saying? Back to your Wi-Fi analogy.
It does. And you can use, you know, technology to reconnect as well, you know, texting, whatever. But anyway, so let's look at what are some some scenarios, you know some scenarios, but let's just give a few. Maybe it's that dad who is working hard and, his daughter's about to go off to college or enter the work world, and there's been a disconnect. She's growing up. She values things differently. She's been a daddy's girl, but, there's time that there's just been a disconnect. They're not able to cut up or hang out like they used to. The relationship looks different.
Oh, it looks very different. And one of the problems with that is, relationships are in continual change. They never stay the same. So it's really easy for a parent to disconnect. And that dad used to being that protector and used to being the guy that she came to, and all of a sudden it's gone. She's not. And I think one of the things I learned through that with adult children is don't make assumptions. Don't get your feelings hurt, Dad, if she's not reaching out, if she's not coming back. Don't make assumptions that, she's outgrowing you. Instead, take action. Instead, create moments, create those intentional times to connect with that teenager. Or, speak to that a minute. Having a teenage daughter like you do, what are some things that you do to stay connected to your girl?
Yeah, it's all about her world and what she values and what's going on. And, it may be watching a video together or, going and looking at certain things, shopping, spending some time getting in her world. It's not necessarily my world and what I would like to be doing for myself, but it's not about me. It's about getting in her world and becoming part of that so that I can connect with what she likes, what she enjoys.
That is so good to bring us right back to what we talked about a minute ago in that stat. You have intentional effort. You're making intentional effort. And I guess, Melissa, the truth is in adolescent years, it's a constant connect, disconnect, right?
That's a great point. And it's going to be there. It's going to be present. And so, just like this question about, being the fixer of, I've got to constantly be looking at how do I press the gas? How do I press the brake? How do I back up? How do I, invest and get where she is? And how do I step back and regroup? It's the same thing in our relationships, our marriage relationships, painting that picture when there's a disconnect, when both husband and wife, they're parenting and they're exhausted and they're working and they're busy and they're taking kids here and there and everywhere and providing opportunities for them and providing, practices and taking them to things. And, that busyness of a schedule and exhaustion, those two things can easily disconnect.
It is incredibly real. You have nailed it. And I know that you and your husband do this, and my wife and I started doing this years ago, and we still do it, is that we have, because of that, the busyness, all the things, and we found ourselves not being able to even communicate about, the bare necessities, like what we needed to do logistically, don't even mention emotionally, right? So we developed what we call coffee time, and I made it a priority. We sat down with coffee every Thursday. We would sit down. That was our time. I would make that space to do that. We still do that to this day on Saturday mornings, and I know that you do that, right?
Well, we learned a lot from you guys. The skill, and obviously you guys, you would take specific time and go over specific things, and that was designed to who you guys are and your relationship and your dynamics. But we learned a lot from that because the talking and the having the time when we're both, alert and fresh. And so we took that and we have some time every morning, short, not every day. Sometimes it doesn't happen, but we try to be intentional to take some time and reconnect over the past day, because that's when we're the best. That's when we're the freshest, and that works for us. But the wisdom of being intentional, and you have passed that down in your relationships, of being able to slow down and take some time, and it really matters. And, it builds. It's like that bank account. The consistency of it begins to build a connection that's strong. This also applies to, friendships. We have friendships where, you've gotten disconnected, and being able to have time together to reach out and to pick up the conversation. I think it's such a blessing when you have friends that you don't see each other, but then when you do connect, it's like you're just picking up where you left off. What a blessing that is. But sometimes a disconnect, you have to do some repair work. You have to reconnect in order for your relationship to keep growing.
Well, I think you have to be intentional, like you said, and take the first step. If you have a friend that you're disconnected with, send them a text. Say, hey, I would love to connect. Or, hey, I'm sorry. Or, hey, I miss what we had. I'd love to hang out. Anything like that. The problem is it takes humility to do that. It takes intentionality, and it's hard.
It takes energy.
It goes back to what we talked about. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable.
And you have to have some energy to do that.
Well, yeah,
and,
absolutely.
All those things. Just even like with a coworker, let's say there's a clash over not meeting deadlines or timelines, or you needed this in order to do your part, and you get frustrated, or any example that you can think of. How do you reconnect? What do you do to make sure you're restoring that connection? And we've got a couple of practical things to be aware of.
We're going practical.
In fact, we've got 5 practical shifts. Our goal is that there are little shifts that can make a big difference in your relationships. And so we want to walk through these, and let's talk about, what does this look like? And I want to challenge us to maybe identify with one. We've got 5 here. Identify with one that might be something that you're aware of, and figure out what you want to do with it. So let's start with the first shift. This shift is from avoidance, from avoidance to engagement. Maybe you're avoiding something. Maybe you're avoiding a conversation, or you're avoiding a connection, or, something might be keeping you from being able to make that little shift and reconnect. So how do you go from avoidance to engagement? What does that look like?
Well, I think you have to realize it's up to you to make the first move. You've got to reach out in order to do this. Avoidance sometimes is more comfortable. Engagement may not be comfortable. It is not comfortable. It's hard. So be willing to reach out first. Be willing to be the first. And even if, really, especially if it feels awkward. If it feels awkward, you're probably doing the right thing.
So you're saying if you're aware of this, then you need to take the step.
That's right.
That can be pretty difficult for people.
Yep.
Maybe
Never
they're
said it was
aware,
easy. Nope.
but it's hard to really step into that.
Yep.
But you're saying do it anyway.
Yeah, and the question is this: is the relationship worth the awkwardness? You have to ask yourself that. Is it worth? Is the relationship worth you being uncomfortable?
A second shift here is to shift from assumption to curiosity. To shift from assumption. So, some of us personalities, we can assume something because, maybe we have a strong EQ, and we start filling in the gaps, or filling in our perspective, or creating our story about what we think might be going on. And already we're creating this scenario that could be accurate, it could be inaccurate. But how do you shift? How do you shift from assumption into curiosity, which I think the word curiosity is a very interesting word.
And I think it's huge. It is in my opinion, it's the number one reason that relationships are destroyed, I think, because we begin to make assumptions, and then we tell ourselves a story, and we believe that story. We tell ourselves the story that we need to believe to make our assumptions true. So what you do is, and I love the word curiosity, right? We need to, instead of making assumptions, we need to become question askers and ask questions and get real answers. You're a truth seeker. Go find, ask questions.
Ask questions of the other person.
Yes, go to that other person. And instead of blaming you, let me ask, hey, help me to understand why. Hey, can you help me to know what you were thinking? Can you? And 9 times out of 10, there wasn't a malicious thing going on. It may have been a neglect. It may have been but 9 times out of 10, it was a misunderstanding. understanding. And if you ask I want to be the best question asker on the planet, because over and over again, I've gone into a situation in a relationship with a thought process or an assumption that was wrong. It was erroneous.
Yes.
And so if I can change that and become a good question asker, wow, then it opens up that curiosity, opens up the engagement piece for the relationship.
And maybe part of the shift might be that I need to personally ask myself questions first.
That's good.
Begin moving myself out of making the assumptions and begin creating some questions in and of myself that creates a connection to the other person before I even get there to ask them questions. So the third piece here, shift, is from past to present. Shift from past to present. Okay, this one's really hard, especially if the past hasn't been resolved. How do you shift from past to present?
Yeah, if there's an open wound there, it's very, very difficult. And this takes a lot of self-discipline. Once again, ask yourself, that wound in the past, is it worth destroying this relationship for the future? And that's the question you have to ask yourself. If that wound is, now there are some situations where it is. There's been abuse, there's been things that certainly, but if not, if there's a disagreement or a misunderstanding based on if you ask questions and you find out there was just a miscommunication, then it means you've got to choose to let that go and look forward.
Also, I think that there are times that we have to change our expectation in that relationship. So maybe this person has, done something that we get frustrated about, and, it's historical. So they have a pattern of doing this, and you just stay frustrated in that, but you value the relationship. So sometimes we have to make some shifts in and of ourselves, and we have to go, no, wait a minute. If I continue to expect something from this person that they can't give, and it's not part of who they are, what do I do with that? Do I talk about it and see if we can get on the same page, or do I create some acceptance of this is part of how things work and how things function? So I got to shift. Yeah,
you got to shift. I call it really, you need to close that emotional gate a little bit, and instead of being open and expecting that person to be intimate or emotionally intimate, or however you want to call that, close to you emotionally, instead of doing that, close that gate a little bit and let them be a kind of a higher level friend that maybe you don't share so much with emotionally, but they're still a friend. There's still value there, and everybody can't. You don't want that gate to be wide open where you trust everybody with your vulnerability, but it would mean, adjusting your vulnerability a little bit so that you can continue to have a relationship with that person with different expectations.
That one's a deep one. Okay, let's talk
kind of went deep
about,
there, didn't we?
Yes, shifting from performance to presence. Okay. Ooh, this is a good one. Shift from performance to presence. You don't have to fix everything. Just show up and be real. Oh, so let's pause.
This goes out to our friend who sent in the question. This is for you. Yep, our friends.
Lots of people.
But you know what, guys? Listen, it's okay not to fix things. It's okay.
No, say that. Hold on. Say that like 2 more times.
It's okay not to fix things. I had a conversation. This is go back to a dad who was really hurt by something his child did, and he was very, very hurt. This adult child, and I had to ask that the question. I said, "Let me ask you a question. Is it more important that your child broke the rule for you, and you see that rule being broken, and you think that you have to go fix that? Is that more important, or is the relationship with your daughter more important? You got to choose. Is it rules or relationship? You get to choose. You got to choose that, and then you go forward. And that's what it is here. Fixing things, you may fix those things, you may fix the task, and you're going to lose the relationship. So ask yourself, what's more important, the relationship or being a fixer?
So I think having your presence, being present, realizing that I'm going to listen. I'm going to engage, or I'm not going to engage, but I'm going to be just mentally and physically present without having to take on your stuff.
That's right.
Without having to feel like I've got to take action. I've got to do something. That's for you to own. That's for you to figure out.
Right.
I'm here. I'm present. The last one is the shift from silence to small words. How do I shift from silence? So maybe I find myself being more silent, more removed, I don't speak up, I don't speak into, I don't, let my voice be heard. I'm not sure I even have a voice in this relationship. So how do I make little shifts from silence to small words?
Understand this. the root cause of silence is two things. It's derived from either fear or passive aggressiveness. That's why you're silent. One of the two. And if it's fear of speaking up, then I've got to have the courage to make that first start. And even if it's just a few words, hey, I need to talk, or I've missed our conversation, or can we talk? Or even if you need to write this down. I found many times it may be silence to small written words, where you write a note, because I may not have that, especially the personality that's introverted. I may not have those words to pull from verbally, but I can always write a letter. I can always write a note, note to reach out. So it could be either a written small word or a verbal small word, but having the courage to do that, or having the character. If you're being passive aggressive, you got to realize that's not okay. And therefore, I'm going to reach out either through writing or through verbal words, because that's the right thing to do. Being passive aggressive is manipulative.
So a lot of opportunity for us to really look at where might we fall? Which side of this shift do we need to make sure we are pushing through and making those small adjustments so that we can have a bigger difference in our relationship? So we really challenge you. Take some time, look at this, see what you need to do. Be aware, because your relationships are super important. It takes time to invest in relationships. It takes energy. And so if we're going to be committed to doing that, and we really want to be able to influence and enjoy those relationships,
that's right,
it's worth the shift.
No, it's totally worth the shift. Speaking of, we need to shift right now. I'm going to let you talk just a minute as I get ready for the most exciting part of our podcast coming up. I'm going to let you talk about what's coming up in August.
Yes, we are super excited. You don't want to miss this. August the 20th, coming up soon, really soon, from 8 to 9:30. We're going to have a tremendous seminar to help give you tools and equip you to have effective relationships in a digital age. Don't we all need that? Our very own Marcus Almonte Perez is going to be leading the seminar. He's been doing this for a long time and has such skill and content to give us, to help us. You can go to our Eagle Center for Leadership.com/events to register, to look at the details. This is going to be in the Huntsville, Alabama area in the Research Park. If you're familiar with that, you're going to gain wisdom by being present, being there. You're also going to get a free copy of the new 25-year Make a Difference book. Larry will be there signing books as well. So it's going to be a really, really good morning.
Oh, it's going to be a good morning. I can't wait to hear Marcus. He's so gifted and talented, and this is so important. How do we have relationships in a digital age? It's just such a challenge, and it's so relevant for where we are. I'm looking forward to it.
I am too.
I think it's going to be great. So as we close today, it is time for, I know you've been looking forward to this. I know you can't wait. Robin, she's just waiting back there. She cannot hardly take it. Our producer. It's the dad joke time. And you never know what's coming with me. So here we go.
You never know. Never know.
I've never been one to, be exactly politically correct all the time. So here we go. That bothers you right there, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Are you ready? So, Melissa, I had an out-of-body experience last week. Yeah. I was beside myself.
Still makes me nervous. Still makes me nervous. Oh, yes.
Thank you for laughing with us. Thank you for engaging and listening to this pod. I hope it helped you. I hope you found some things to help in your relationships. And we continue to encourage you to make those little shifts that'll make a big difference. We'll see you next time.
Little shifts that make a big difference. RelationShifts. Little shifts that make a big difference.